Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gab Major, and this is a review of the Tier 7 Premium American Battleship USS Massachusetts, the end reward of the Big Mammy campaign if you have Amity backing. Now this is a Tier 6 and 7 game of capture based on Trident. On the enemy team we have a Biskavitska, a Fletcher, and a Algeria, Azuma, Megami, Wichita, Cleveland, KG5 and Various stock. Spawn to the left and going to support our left flank. So USS Massachusetts is a member of the 4-strong South Dakota class battleships, and she was launched in September 1941. She first took part in the European theatre, where she shelled the French battleship Jean Bart at Casablanca in North Africa, after which she was transferred to the Pacific theatre, where she served out the rest of the war. After the war, she was decommissioned in 1947, a mere 6 years after her launch. Now, for a more in-depth guide to USS Massachusetts, then I'd always recommend Dracofinel's 5-minute guide, and that'll be carded top right now, but also will be on the end screen if you want to watch it afterwards. So, in comparison to the tech tree Tier 7 battleships, survivability wise, you have a just below average HP base of 66,300 HP, and you have a just below average HP pool of 94,104 HP. Now you also have the best torpedo reduction of 46% in comparison to the tech tree battleships. However, if you want to include the premiums, then you are looking at the second best, second only to her sister, which is USS Alabama. Going on to the armour, and we'll go and have a look at that back at the port. So we're back in the port having a look at the armour viewer. Well, I guess first of all what you probably want to be looking at is taking note that you do have a very large, very thinly plated superstructure. That does mean that you are going to be susceptible to high explosive spam of 4-inch guns or more. That's 102mm. Also, it does mean that you are looking at piercing damage coming from those small caliber guns, so not a lot of resistance to that up there. Now, going on to the bow and the stern, this is pretty nice and thick. You are looking at about 32mm. Or more across most of that. So what you're looking at is basically the ability to cause 406mm guns and lower AP shells to ricochet. So that's basically 16-inch guns or lower. Now that's quite interesting, being that there are quite a lot of 16-inch guns up at the higher tiers, so that does mean that you do have a bit of resistance to that. However, it's probably worth mentioning that you aren't going to be able to see a Yamato in game, which does mean a Yamato is going to be able to punch straight through you very nicely, unfortunately. Now, I guess one of the main things that everyone always likes to see is, where is that citadel? Well, it's practically below water level, so what it does mean is that you're only, if you're up close, the chance of getting citadeled possibly, this means it's not super below water level, it's practically at water level or just a little bit below. It's very hard to completely confirm, but I guess if you're up close, the chances of them being able to citadel, it does mean they've got to punch through obviously the main armoured belt, which is quite thick, and then if they're aiming for the centre bit, they might have a good chance maybe able to get through and not bounce. However, if they're targeting under your front turrets, it's probably going to bounce there. If they're targeting under your rear turret, which is a bit thinner below there, then they might be able to punch through there as well. It all depends on those inboard calculations. But obviously, like we said, it's going to have to try and defeat this armoured belt, and that is quite a thick main armoured belt as well there, 287mm. So what that does mean is that you are going to be, well, it might even be more, it's 310mm. So what this really does mean is that if you're up against something a bit nasty, then you might have to probably angle yourself, which also means that you do have a nice bit of armour in order to actually try and angle against the enemy and bounce those incoming shots. When it comes to the turrets, they are chunky monkeys when it comes to the amount of armour all over them, up to 439mm, 457mm on the front, and the barbettes are quite thickly armoured as well, especially going all the way down to just below the main armoured belt, although it probably means that B turret is slightly more exposed than A turret and Y turret in comparison to how much the barbette is of that slightly thinner plating. However, more than likely they should be quite survivable turrets. Now, when it comes to the torpedo bulge, the main location of it is basically around your citadel. That's basically what a torpedo bulge should be protecting, reducing that incoming torpedo damage to your citadel. So that does mean that if you're taking a torpedo hit in your center, yes, the torpedo damage will be reduced, but also the damage will be passed on to your citadel. Whereas if you take a torpedo hit in, say, the bow or stern sections, then what you're probably expecting is that you're going to be taking the full torpedo damage. However, that torpedo damage will be to the hull's HP rather than the citadel HP, which does mean that it should be completely recoverable. So that's always two things that it's always worth, when you're in a ship, it's always worth trying to work out. Do you want to take it on your torpedo bout, reduce the amount of damage, but also possibly means that you're not going to be able to repair as much of it off, or you can take it on the bow or the stern. That means you're going to take a lot more damage, but you're going to be able to repair a lot more of it off. So on all, that's the Massachusetts in the armor viewer. So let's go back into the game. Hello and welcome back to the game. So, moving on to the artillery, we have 9 16-inch guns in 3 triple turrets. We have A turret, B turret super firing up front, and then we have Y turret at the rear. So what this means is we have 2 turrets forward and 1 turret aft. Hoping that we can dodge some of these torpedoes. So when it comes to talking about the guns, you do have a just below average range of 17 kilometers. You also have an average reload speed of 30 seconds. You also have a joint second slowest turret traverse of 45 seconds per 180 degrees of rotation. Nope, the Cleveland didn't quite commit to the turn. Now, when it comes to the shells, they very much are exactly the same as the Iowa. So you are looking at being Mr. Average across the board. You have an average HE shell damage, you have an average AP shell damage, and an average fire chance. Now combine that with the average rate of fire and you are looking at having practically an average DPM across the board, with an average HE and AP DPM and an average fires per minute. Now, 2 of your traits are in relation to your guns. You have Reloader, which I don't quite agree with because of that 30-second reload, but you also have Sticky Shot, which basically means you have that super heavy AP, which has better auto ricochet angles. So rather than it being the usual plus or minus 45 degrees, you are looking at it being a lot more closer to plus or minus 60 degrees. Going on to the maneuverability, and you have the Agile trait. Now, you are the slowest at 27.5 knots, however you do have the smallest turning circle of 710 meters, and the third quickest rudder shift of 15.7 seconds. Going on to the concealment, and again you're Mr. Average. You have an average detectability by sea, you have an average detectability by fire and smoke, and by air. Going on to the consumables, and first of all, obviously you come with 3 repair parties. These will heal 331 HP per second for 28 seconds, which means that each repair party will heal a total of 9,268 HP. Which is about 2 green bars down there at the bottom if you're trying to figure it out. Now obviously you come with the American Damage Control Party, which has a duration of 20 seconds and has an 80-second cooldown. Now, when it comes to your other consumable, you do have some options. You can either have 5 catapult fighters, or you can have 5 spotter aircraft, although the spotter aircraft only have a duration of 30 seconds, so it's worth remembering that you're only probably going to be getting 1 volley out of that. Or you can have a 3-number enhanced secondary battery. Should be alright to mop up this Fletcher. There we go. Now, as always, down in the description will be my commander build and the ship modules. However, I should let you know that I've taken secondary battery module 2, steering gears module 2, target acquisition systems module 1, and artillery plotting room module 2. Now, the artillery plotting room is actually quite a nice module because that does reduce your dispersion by 11%. One thing I've neglected to mention is obviously she does have quite good secondaries, or at least good secondary range. You are looking at having 10 5-inch guns per side in 5 dual gun turrets, and they have a 6-second reload and quite a decent range. There we go. Whether or not she managed to chuck torpedoes out, I don't know, but there's not many people left of my team. Oh well, that's 2 fires. Let's see what we can do to try and claw this back a little bit, I guess you could say.
The ship is on fire.
Try and make sure I keep my secondaries engaged. Got a Witcher firing on us, got a Velocious which is battle tanking behind an island. Definitely spotted by whatever the DD is up at capturing our base. No longer spotted now though. Not quite sure where the enemy completely are. Velocious battle tanker behind an island is quite a difficult one to try and dig out, especially when we don't really have the time. Now with the secondary battery module 2, we are looking at a secondary range of 8.3 kilometers at the moment. Oh, the Wish has gone behind, okay. Oh no, Nazuma, right. So, see if we can mop you up.
Enemy severely damaged.
Now, thankfully, Nazuma doesn't have torpedoes.
Problem gold, sir. Target penetrated. We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Oh, there we go. Well, at least now we can stop focusing so much on the game. So sorry for any awkward quiet moments there, but having finished the review and then being able to rack ourselves up to 126,000 damage, I'm quite happy with that. Massachusetts, yeah, I enjoy her, I have to confess. Although apparently her accuracy is supposed to be slightly worse. Haven't been able to compare her to the Iowa, but from playing her, I don't feel the accuracy doesn't feel bad. Doesn't feel amazing, but it seems good enough, considering I managed to get 40 hits that game. Managed to get 3 kills? The Fletcher, the Azuma... I'm not sure what that third kill... Or the Algeria, I guess. Yes, yeah, got myself close quarters, didn't I? 5 Citadel, 6 fires. Oh no, seems alright, I guess you could say. I think she's quite a nice reward. Definitely a lot better than the Yahagi, if you really want my honest opinion, and probably a better end reward compared to, say, the Azuma, I guess you might say. Coming in top of the team, but you can probably very much tell from my gameplay there that I'm very much not a battleship player. It was just been finally able to get through a review that I'm quite happy with. Well, if you have enjoyed this review, feel free to give it a thumbs up. I know it's not the best gameplay, in all honesty, and if you are already subscribed, I'd say thank you very much. If you do enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe, and as always, down in the description is my commander build, which is Dewey. I've gone for like a speed build because I do find the speed of these American battleships absolutely agonising. I also have the ship modules. Email address for the channel if you want to send in any of your own game captures for the community spotlight video. And also a link to Patreon, so if you want to support the channel on Patreon, then you can do so there. And if you do so, then you can have your lovely name appearing on screen as per some of the Patrons right now. Until next time, I'm the Gareth Major, and back to the port.